Intro: the comforting lie about power. Most people want power to come from love. They want to believe that if they are kind enough, fair enough, understanding enough, they will be respected. This belief feels moral, it feels human, and it is exactly why it fails. Niccolò Machiavelli did not write for ideal conditions. He wrote for pressure, for moments when resources shrink, when loyalty is tested, when sacrifice is required. And under pressure, love behaves very differently than people expect. Part 1. What Machiavelli actually said, not what people quote. Machiavelli never said, "Choose fear, reject love." He said, "If one must choose, it is safer to be feared than loved." The word safer matters. Love is a voluntary emotion. Fear is a calculated response. Love depends on gratitude, mood, personal benefit. Fear depends on memory, consequence, consistency. One fluctuates, the other stabilizes behavior. Machiavelli was not advising cruelty. He was diagnosing human reliability. Part 2. Why love collapses under pressure. Love works in comfort, when there is no cost, no sacrifice, no consequence. People are generous when generosity is cheap, but power is tested when expectations increase. Resources tighten, disappointment becomes unavoidable. This is where love breaks, because love contains an unspoken contract. I support you as long as it feels good. The moment pain enters the equation, that contract weakens. Machiavelli observed rulers who built authority on affection alone. They were admired until they had to enforce limits. The moment they did, love turned into resentment. Part 3. The dark truth about gratitude. Gratitude decays. The human mind normalizes benefits quickly. What once felt generous soon feels expected. This is why people who give too much lose leverage. The more you give without boundaries, the more people assume access. And once access feels guaranteed, respect declines. Machiavelli understood that what is freely given is rarely defended. Love that lacks consequence becomes entitlement. Part 4. What fear really means and what it does not. Fear is misunderstood. Fear does not mean aggression, intimidation, emotional volatility. That creates hatred, and Machiavelli warned explicitly against hatred. Fear, in Machiavellian terms, means predictable boundaries, consistent enforcement, known consequences. Fear is clarity, not cruelty. People fear crossing lines when they know those lines exist. They do not fear chaos, they fear structure. Part 5. Modern reality, where this shows up today. At work, the manager who wants to be liked excuses poor performance, avoids confrontation, delays consequences. They are loved, briefly, but they are not respected. The manager who enforces standards calmly, sets expectations, applies consequences consistently, does not over-explain. They are not adored, but they are obeyed. In relationships, affection without boundaries invites testing. The partner who tolerates everything loses polarity. The one who leaves calmly when lines are crossed creates fear, not terror, but loss. Loss is remembered. Part 6. Why fear outlasts love. Love is reactive. Fear is anticipatory. People act differently when they anticipate consequence. They self-regulate. This reduces the need for constant enforcement. Machiavelli favored systems that required less emotional energy, produced consistent behavior, survived individual moods. Fear scales, love does not. Part 7. The balance Machiavelli actually recommended. Here is the nuance most people miss. Machiavelli did not advocate choosing fear alone. He warned against being hated. Fear without hatred requires fairness, predictability, emotional restraint. The ruler who lashes out becomes feared and despised. The ruler who enforces quietly becomes feared and respected. This difference determines longevity. Part 8. Why nice people struggle with power. People who rely on love tend to over-explain decisions, over-give resources, over-tolerate disrespect. They fear losing approval, so they trade authority for comfort. Machiavelli would not call this kindness. He would call it fear of disapproval. And fear of disapproval is visible. Visible fear invites exploitation. Part 9. The real law of fear versus love. Here is the law as Machiavelli understood it. Love binds only when conditions are easy. Fear binds when conditions worsen. Power does not survive on emotion. It survives on predictability. If people know what you allow, what you will not, and that enforcement is inevitable, they adapt their behavior around you. No cruelty required. Final identity lock. Endgame. You do not need to be loved. You need to be clear, consistent, unmovable under pressure. Love fades. Fear remembers. And in the architecture of power, memory matters more than affection.